And then, is it now going?
Now we're going.
Now we're going.
Now we're going.
Oh, wait. And now we're going. Yeah. Welcome to Just Browsin, the podcast. I am one of the co-hosts, Zach Jones. We just realized we recorded an entire 10-minute or 11-minute introduction and never once mentioned our names. So we're now going back in time and introducing ourselves. So, yeah.
So yeah, as Zach said, he's Zach Jones, and he is a co-host of Just Browsin. I'm Matt Ewan, or Matthew Ewan, Matty the Fatty, any way you want to call me,
I don't know if I was you. I don't know if I would be right off the bat going, hey, I'm Matty the Fatty.
Hey, you know what? I could be Matty the Fatty. You call me a co-host. Zach and I are going to be producers in terms, too, because we're going to be editing this shit together. So you call us whatever you want it. All right?
Not like Matt the Mastermind or something.
Or you could call me Matt the Mastermind.
The creator.
Or, just
Matty
Master,
the Fatty.
Matty the Fatty. It doesn't matter.
You do realize if this thing ever gets really, really insanely popular, people are going to come back to this, find this intro, and be like, oh, no, you're Matty the Fatty for now.
And then I'm going to be shredded.
Yeah, and then at that point, you're like, joke's on you. I'm jacked.
Yeah. And then they'll be like, well, why'd you call yourself Matty the Fatty? I'd be like, listen, in high school I was called Matty the Fatty, and I was 6 foot, 185 pounds at my biggest. So you tell me who called me Matty the Fatty.
Well, and then
first.
it could be like one of those situations where the guy who's 6'8" and like 300 pounds is called Tiny or whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's like,
it was a funny nickname.
It's my friend Tiny.
I never took it to heart because I don't take jokes to heart. I don't get offended.
Right.
So hey. But yeah, welcome to Just Browsin.
Welcome to Just Browsin. That was round 2 of our introduction.
Yeah. And you're going to hear both. So you can go fuck yourself.
Through the miracle of editing, you're going to hear both. So yeah, man, here we go. Finally doing it.
Well, we're finally doing something that we talked about. Hopefully we'll have Zach and Brandon here for some episodes. Probably not, but
like I said, I think this is going to be a good idea to start with just the two of us, so it's not too hectic, and we're also not going to be screaming at each other. Although I think the headphones will help with that.
I think the headphones will help, and I think structuring this to be in a flowing manner will help, because then when we're all talking, it's just going to become like... Well, and it'll help with this mixer, so I could be like, oh, he's too loud, I'm going to shut him off, and he has no idea that he's shut off. And he's too quiet, but he's trying to talk, so I'm going to turn him up.
Yeah. Well, so I think it also helps for if you're a deaf piece of shit like me who can't hear anything. The headphones help because it's like it's right in your ear, like
right. And instead of you just hearing like someone else, you're hearing yourself. So it kind of gives you that like I can hear myself, so I don't have to scream because I can't hear myself.
So essentially, I need this when I go to any bar on the weekend, any time ever.
Right. So you're gonna have to take a microphone with the headset. I think you can plug the headset directly into one of these, but I don't know how you're gonna power the mic. So you're going to have to take a device that powers the mic. Then you're going to have to take something that you can plug your headset into.
But, I could make it work. Yeah. Ideally, that's what I would need.
Ideally,
and I'd just be walking around with a microphone and headphones at the bar downtown, so I'm not shouting at the bartender like, can I get a Jack and Coke? And it's like, yeah, dude, I can hear you. I'm right here.
But you'll be interviewing them. Yeah. So you have to move your mic from your mouth to their mouth.
Just whisper into the mic, I can hear you, and then I will whisper back. Then I take the headphones off real
You just
got
to keep switching.
Yeah. And then that way I'm not screaming at him.
And then about 40 minutes later, you get your Jack and Coke.
Yeah.
For about $14.
Well, actually, how it normally goes is I walk up to the bar, stand there with my wallet in hand or like cash in hand and an ID, and I'm just like kind of tapping my fingers on the bar like, oh, he'll notice me in a second, come over and take my order. No, it's fucking like 25 minutes later. And finally Taya comes up and she's like, what did you want? I'll just flag him down. Yep. And then I'm like, all I wanted was a Coors Light and a Jack and Coke. She's like, okay. He just orders it. She flags him down, gets his attention in 2 seconds, orders my drinks, and then takes off.
It's because you're a tall, bearded dude.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. I could walk up there and people just look at me and they're like, he's underage. And I'm 26 now, and I'm not underage. I can legally drink. And they're like, he doesn't have facial hair. He doesn't have hair on the top of his head.
That's a good thing, though.
So he's clearly like a baby because he's bald. I'm like, no.
They're like, this guy's really confusing. He's either 50 or he's like 8 years old.
And then they see him walking like he's crippled. So he's, football's taking its toll on his body.
Either his hair's growing in or it's growing out. I don't know what's going on.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, he fell down the stairs. He's hammered. And I walk outside fine. And then I hate my life trying to get home.
I don't know how we even got on this subject. Basically that I'm deaf and I can't hear anything at bars.
I don't know, but it's been the greatest 3 minutes to start a podcast ever.
So anyway, back to the topic at hand. We wanted to start this for a long time. We wanted to do a podcast for, I would say, probably a couple of years now.
It had to have been. I bought that beginner podcast thing on Amazon when I lived with my parents.
Yeah.
And then you came over, and I'm like, I don't know how to set any of this shit up.
And then we just kind of dropped
threw it in the box, and it's still at my parents' house, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Or I got rid of it.
Yeah. So we just never started it until recently when we were like, how did it get started recently, too? We just started talking about it more and more often, and I don't know. And
then I think you texted me, and you're like, dude, you want to do a podcast? And I've come to that point in my life where if I want to do something, like, we're doing
just commit to it. Finally.
And so then last weekend you came over, and we spent all the money on all the equipment, and we had no excuses not to do it.
Yeah. Well, dude, it fucking blew my mind how quickly we were able to just get it all. It's like it's kind of like I was saying, when podcasts kind of first started being a thing or like popular. I don't even know what year that was. It's probably been a little over 10 years, maybe like 15 years or something like that. It was probably kind of difficult to get one started, like if you wanted to do a legit operation. But dude, in 2020, literally, you and me, I came over here, we spent a couple hours looking shit up on Amazon, going to a couple websites, watching YouTube videos of guys like, here's what you need for a podcast, here's what I recommend for beginners or whatever. We ordered all the shit from Amazon. It literally arrived in, a couple days?
Yeah, I think we had everything in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Delivered directly to the door.
Right to your door. We set it up, and here we are fucking talking.
Right.
It's been a week.
I set it up today. I plugged everything in, and we literally got to edit this shit, and then we're live. Like, we got a podcast.
Yeah.
And we could literally upload it to endless platforms.
Yeah.
And
it's so cool. I love it.
We'll be able to, like, share this with people on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and then just, like, the whole world could hear it, or literally, like, 2 people could hear it, and they're sitting in the same room.
Which I'm still fine with, even if
it's going to be fun as shit.
If no one listens, it just, like, we didn't have an excuse, unless we made one, unless we were like, hey, man, you want to watch a ball game tonight or watch a movie or play some video games or whatever the fuck. We wouldn't have hung out tonight, probably. You would have just been here watching hockey. I would have been at my house watching a movie or playing games or whatever. But this gives us an opportunity like, hey, man, you want to do a podcast tonight? Yeah, absolutely. I drive over here. We sit down. We have a conversation. And then that's it. Like,
some nights we get drunk and just shoot the shit.
And it doesn't have to be, that's what I kept telling everyone. I was like, when I was telling everyone we wanted to start this, and they're like, that's actually kind of cool. I'm like, yeah, I mean, honestly, all I want out of it is just an excuse to, like, hang out and bullshit with my friends and talk about the shit that we already talk about that cracks us up and interests us.
Right, and now we can share it with people.
So now
our inside jokes can become outside jokes.
And really, in all reality, that's all any of these podcasts are that are, like, super popular. Like, Joe Rogan's started just like this, where it's just him and his friends just recording ridiculous conversations with them talking about UFOs and UFC and all that kind of stuff.
And then now Joe Rogan's one of the top, if not top, podcasts out there.
Of course, it does help that he's a nationally famous commentator and stand-up comedian and all that. So he's got that going for him.
I mean, I'm a software engineer. That should put me on the globe somewhere.
We'll get there someday. But so anyway, So, and then Just Browsin is the name we came up with.
Just Browsin.
Because it's a funny name, because it stems from one of our inside jokes where we're like, we're just doing a little bit of browsing, actually. Just coming in here, doing a little bit of browsing. And it also connects to, like, that's what we're going to be doing on this podcast. Like, it's not like, oh, this is a political podcast or this is a sports-only podcast. It's like, dude, we're just browsing through the topics. Right. That's all we're doing.
And I think, it, like you said, it fits us perfectly because we can literally sit here and talk about sports 1 minute, and then we're talking about, a random movie the next minute.
Yeah.
Or, I think we both agreed we want to stay away from politics.
Yeah.
It might get brought up at some point in time, but, we don't want to sit here and bore people with the same topic over and over again. We want to be able to, like, be diverse and be like, even if someone comes and listens to the first 10 minutes because that's what they want to hear, it's like, you could at least have fun.
Right.
And we could go from, like I said, having fun with sports to, like, a deep, dark path of a conspiracy theory that we're all like, now I'm terrified, like, we're having a sleepover. Like, I'm going to shit my pants if I'm sleeping by myself.
Well, and we wanted to keep it broad, too, because that's how our conversations normally go anyway. We'll start, just how 5 minutes ago we were doing that, where we started off trying to talk about one thing, and then next thing we're talking about some topic that's completely unrelated at all to what we started talking about. And it happens and then if we you know, if you and me and Zach and Brandon sit and have a conversation for 2 hours, the amount of topics that we cycle through is absurd.
Oh yeah,
It's absurd.
Even in a 30-minute span, we could cover 6 topics.
Yeah.
And it's like one could be 29 minutes, and we cover 5 topics in the next minute.
Yeah.
And we all understand fully what we just discussed.
Yeah.
And then minute 31, we switch to something else.
Yeah.
And people could look at us like, you know, Taya last weekend goes, how many comments are you going to make on the same joke? And we're all like, we could go for days.
Yeah, we could keep going. Well, I think that's one of the things, too. We're going to have to, like, I think she has a valid point about us really going off on a tangent with a joke and just keep piling on, and keep making the joke funnier and funnier. And we basically keep doing it until it dies, until it's like, okay, it's definitely no longer funny. It was not funny 5 jokes ago, but we're still doing it. We're still hammering it because you never know. The next one that one of us randomly comes up with is going to be gold. It's going to be hilarious, and we're all going to be rolling again. And you can keep that one joke going for 15 minutes, but it's also probably super annoying for anyone who's not in on the joke or who wasn't part of that conversation. Like, are you fucking serious? You guys still talking about that?
But at the same time, we could sit here and be like, yeah, this is a legit conversation that we're now having. And it spanned from a joke about how we would never see him again because we were kicking him out of the group.
Yeah.
But we wore it out, but we didn't wear it out, if you know what I mean.
And we'll most likely cycle back to it in another 30 minutes. Or there's some of them that are like, those jokes we literally cycle back to that we first came up with in high school. Like,
oh, yeah.
Here it is 8 years later, and we're still talking about the same jokes.
And it's endless.
And you know what? It's just as funny as it was the first time.
And it'll always be that way.
We're going to be 50 years old talking about the same joke that we came up with when we were sophomores in high school.
And every
laughing
girl
just as hard
that's in our lives is going to be like, you guys are dumb. And we're going to be like, hey.
Just a collective eye roll from
I think
everyone.
you're just upset that we're happy with this joke that's been going for so long.
It's like, you wish you had a joke that was that funny.
Yeah. And then they're going to be upset that they don't, and we're going to move on. And then it'll get brought up a couple years later. And we're going to have the same conversation over and over again.
Pretty much. So that's Just Browsin for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Just Browsin.